The Partial Breakaway Podcast with your hosts Nick and Junior and producer Vince, bringing you elite fantasy hockey information to help you win your fantasy leagues and win at life.
Episode
68.
Mama.
One more episode.
You beat me to it, Junior. You beat me to
I
it.
wasn't sure if you were gonna take off or you were waiting for me to start and then you were gonna.
Yeah, false starts. That's what we were used to here.
It's not like we've already done 60 episodes that you guys can't even know who comes in, who comes out.
68 episodes, guys. That's a long time. Long
That's
time
68 weeks worth for those
of content.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had better content out there than today, but no, I'm kidding. Actually, today's another jam-packed episode with all kinds of trades going down. I don't know what's happening here. Raiders hiring people like Pete Carroll at 73 years old. I mean, we're going to talk all about that today.
What?
We changed into a football podcast. Perfect.
I
How
should be there.
about the NBA saying, "Hey, NHL, hold my beer," and trading Doncic?
So, what is the NHL equivalent of that trade?
Oh,
that
man, we
trade?
went back and forth in the chats.
Let's say it's the NHL. What would be the equivalent of what we just witnessed in the NBA?
It'd be someone getting Austin Matthews, and let's say Pittsburgh getting. Man, it's like, because Anthony Davis is not he's an elite player, but he's older and
He's not as flashy. That's the thing. He's big.
Yeah, he's not.
Would you say like a Panarin? Because I would say Panarin is a little bit lower on the totem pole than Matthews, and older.
Maybe like Draisaitl for Eichel.
I don't know much about the NBA, so for me, I'm relying on you guys for this.
Maybe like Draisaitl for Eichel.
Draisaitl for Eichel?
Ish.
Yeah, but Eichel's too young. Anyways, it
was a massive trade.
Yeah.
It's a massive
It
trade.
was a massive trade. Yeah. So today, what are we going to preview? We have all the Pedersens. We have
that exists in the NHL.
yeah, it's that Spider-Man meme where they're all pointing at each other. And we have our odd man rush where our takes that are 30 seconds long last 3 minutes. We have some rumblings. We're going to discuss the 3 trades that we know of that happened in the NHL this week. And there's probably more coming because we're hearing more rumblings. And then I think we have our waiver wire pickup. And then Vince has a section of a trade that occurred, or it's like a keep 10 or keep 12 league. So anyways, that's going to be keep 5.
I'll explain it when we get
So that's going to be an interesting one as well. Something different today. All right.
Okay, so let's jump right into it then, shall we?
Odd Man Rush. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host for the Odd Man Rush this week, where we take news and notes and trends of the NHL and turn them into 37-second takes, which usually last 3 minutes and 3 seconds. You see how I changed it? Yeah. All right.
Good
Junior.
recovery, Vince. Good recovery.
Nick, first one. I don't know how relative this is, but Grubauer gets sent to the waivers. I mean, I think it was pretty obvious that Joey Decor had the number 1 spot in Seattle anyway. So, what do you make of this news?
Absolutely not important whatsoever. Joey Decord, like you said, was in fact the starter. He's been paid as a starter. He's the starter going forward on that team. They called up Alice Stetska, which I had to look it up because I've never heard of this guy before in my life. Seems to have a pretty decent career. He's played in the Czech league for quite a few years, and had a pretty decent save percentage in the AHL with Coachella Valley Firebirds. So we'll see. 914 and 902 save percentage in the AHL is nothing to sneeze at.
All right.
I don't think he's fantasy relevant, so for me, it's move on to the next. But maybe keep an eye on this guy. He's kind of 28 years old. I don't think there's much to add to that.
Junior, the bell. Bing.
Oh,
Producer Junior today.
Man, my God. Junior Fleury obviously gets a shutout in his last game in Montreal. I'm guessing was this too much respect from Habs players? Was just Habs just being back to the Habs?
In today's day and age, I mean, I kind of expected it. The Habs always do these classy things, even though sometimes it's against the grain. I don't know if you guys caught a glimpse of what Knuckles Nyland said on this podcast, where back in his day, there was no way he was getting in line to go hug the opposing goalie who just shut them out in their own building, unless it was to hit him across the head. So definitely times have changed. But look, credit to Savard, who I think initiated it all. So I think it was a nice gesture from a first ballot Hall of Famer to pay his respects in his last game in his hometown.
Yeah, and it's not the first time that this happens. It's not like Montreal did it it's the first team that has done it to a player who we know is retiring. It's happened before. I think Knuckles is just living in the past a little too much. Next, Knicks. Habs struggling. Goalie on IR, lacerated quadricep. Goalie was having a really good stint with Montreal lately, especially when they moved him back to the right side of the defense. So, what do you take first thing of the Habs, and what do you think of Gouli? Is he getting to that paper mache category?
It's just, if you look at Caden Gooley's injuries, they are not injuries necessarily that you say to yourself, these are recurring injuries, where it's always the same muscle, it's always the same shoulder, it's always the same wrist. Like this guy literally caught an edge skating towards a puck. Nobody touched him. He fell, and his own skate lacerated his quad.
Completely lacerated his quad.
Nice.
Completely.
Like what kind of freak accident is that? You know, you can't turn around and say that this is an injury-prone player necessarily, right? I mean, yes, he's had a history of these. This guy has bad luck, like literally bad luck, and it's really unfortunate. Again, bad luck because of the fact that he was starting to really hit it. We're talking about 4 points in his last 6 games. Things were starting to look up. He was playing with Cole Hudson on the same pairing. He was playing like he had gotten away from the Matheson. So I was really seeing something a little bit different, and unfortunately, this happened. Now, he's 23 years old, guys. He still has plenty of hockey left in front of him, but this is year ending, right? 6 months, I heard 4 to 6 months injury. So, as a fantasy podcast, we want to know who takes over for him. Well, Struble comes in to be more of a defensive guy. It's still Hudson and Matheson that are going to be providing whatever offense there is. And unfortunately, we're not going to be getting the other offense from Gouli.
They might call up Mayu. They did so for a paper transaction and send them back for the AHL All-Star. But yeah, it's a tough break. Montreal's a bit in shambles. This break can't come fast enough.
The break's coming at a good time for Montreal, but we'll talk about that later. I think what's more important here is that Gouli recovers and comes back strong next year. And that's going to be tough because now he's missing a lot of hockey.
It's better to miss it when your team sucks than when your team is striving to win, I guess. Silver lining.
Look at you and your silver linings. Bing!
Good bell.
Junior Hiskinen is on IR, so he's out for the 4 Nations. Pierangelo, backed out of the Four Nations. Do you see any other players from now to when the Four Nations starts backing out of the tournament?
Now, no, I'd say it's a bit last minute to do so, unless an injury happens this week. But I'm really curious to see the increase in point production for Thomas Harley now that Heiskanen's gone. Harley was producing at an average rate for his standards. So now with more power play one, I expect him to be more productive. So Harley owners probably got a little gift here before the break.
Bing! Junior. No, Nick. This is a more disappointing one for me because I have him on my team. Logan Cooley on IR, out indefinitely with a lower body injury. Um, is there anybody that can step up in Utah? I mean, he was having a pretty good season this year. Nick, go Cooley, IR.
15 goals, 20 assists so far, on pace for 71 points. His shooting percentage is exactly the same as last year. He's shooting a little bit more this year. And on top of it, he has about 2 minutes more of ice time this year. More shorthanded time, more power play time. Cooley is turning into the number one center that he was elected to be. And I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years from now, when he reaches his prime, maybe 3 years from now when he reaches his prime, if he's not a point per game player.
Something Montreal could have used?
Whatever. It's not a Montreal-based podcast, so.
Instead of Slavkowski. Junior, sad, signs with Vegas 1 year, 1.5 million. Is this really fantasy relative?
You know
Relevant.
what? I'm very intrigued. I'm very intrigued by this one. I don't think we'll see it pay off right away, but I feel like Vegas it represents SAD. Like they go hand in hand. I feel like if there was one team, maybe the two teams I saw SAD fit in like the most was Vegas and Dallas. Like those are like the typical teams that SAD would excel with, excuse me. And right now they have Kolasar on the first line with Barbashev and Jack Eichel. I think coming out of the break, give Saad 2-3 weeks, and he's going to be a top 6 player on this team and will be producing points. And at $1.5 million as a free agent in most leagues, I think that could be something that's very tempting. So I would almost consider, if you have the cap space, getting ahead of it and getting him early before he actually puts up the points. But it might not be till about 2 weeks after the break.
Bing! Nicholas, Pernovic, D'Angelo, Boykvist all get points in their first games with the Isles. Who's most likely to be fantasy relevant in this final third of the season?
Well, I mean, this all comes with the news of Dubois. Sorry. Oh, it's not my
fighting
night.
his words tonight.
Fighting my words tonight. Dobson. With Dobson being injured, it opened the door, right? And all of a sudden, you're starting to see all of these players getting some ice time. What I really like about this is that it shows a shift in philosophy on the defensive side of the island, because where before you had Pellick and Pulock and Romanov and Dobson, and you just had a lot of those guys are defensive oriented, and not many of them are necessarily offensive defensemen. And now there's a shift, and now you see Romanov paired with D'Angelo, you see Pellick paired with Perunovic, you see Chalowski. Remember Chalowski? Chalowski paired with Adam Boqvist. And you're saying to yourself, well, there's a clear need of puck-moving defensemen on this team, and they went out and they got them. Now, to me, there's only one guy that's actually fantasy relevant, and that's D'Angelo. D'Angelo has had the history of continued success in the NHL, regardless of his politics, if you like him or you don't like him, because he is a little bit controversial at times. The fact of the matter is that he does put up points in the NHL. So to me, D'Angelo is the person to look at. He has 3 points in his last 4 games. He is perfect for the island. 5 games played, 1 goal, 2 assists.
Bing! Listen.
So no, I wanted to add something. At one point, I saw a report that at one point in the last game, because of some like a defenseman or two that left the game. They were down to only one defenseman that started the year with the Islanders. Everybody else was new. And if you go look at their IR right now, it's absolutely ridiculous. Not necessarily relevant names, but Mike Riley, Noah Dobson, Matthew Barzal, Scott Mayfield, Varlamov and Holberg, the goalies, Fashing, Pollock. All these guys are out.
Pollock's a big one. Dobson's a big one.
And they won 7 in a row.
Barzal's a big one, right?
Yeah.
You should see my IR in Lama.
Hey, listen, the important thing is that the tariffs have been suspended for 40 days, okay? Dun, dun, dun.
Well, talking
Moving
about
on.
Talking about the Islanders, Barzal on IR. How, and they've been winning. That's a lot of bells, man. And they've been winning. So what's the story with Barzal?
Look, Barzal was having the worst statistical season of his career. He was on pace for 55 points in 82 games. He's only at 20 points in 30 games. His shooting percentage is at its lowest. His point pace was at its lowest. Everything was at its lowest. I think this is like a season to forget with 2 injuries in the middle of the season. Unfortunately for Barzal, Barzal owners, it's not going to happen this year. But what I do think from a fantasy perspective, I think he could be a really good buy low candidate because people at this point might be fed up of his injuries and his bad season. And it could be something you could capitalize.
No, you're still there, Junior. We see you.
Okay, well, because Junior got disconnected because obviously he doesn't pay his bills, Tage Thompson is what we should really talk about here instead of Barzal.
So Tage Thompson getting decapitated while on the hottest streak he's been all year with Buffalo Sabres. Shots to the head, Nick. It's the players come back differently from when they get hit to the head. Either good, bad. What's your take on Tage Thompson?
Well, they came out and said that he's day to day. They're not concerned because he didn't show signs of a concussion that day or that evening. But as well as we know, concussions, they could come a couple of days later where you start getting migraines or you start getting dizzy spells or you start forgetting things. You never know with a concussion protocol and a hit to the head like that. It was dirty. It was dirty. He was reaching for the puck. And if you saw the replay, as he's reaching down for the puck, his head is obviously exposed. The other player came right in. Noason from New Jersey. So he got a match penalty. He got out of the game. But what's worse is that Buffalo just stood around looking at people. Like your best player, this guy is literally everything offensive that you have on your team goes through Tage Thompson. 8 points in his last 3 games, by the way, before this hit to the head. And nobody did anything. Nobody dropped the gloves. Nobody even pushed around. Nobody, and at the end, to kind of save his team a little bit, the coach came out and said that, guess what, there were people that did want to go after him, but I told them to hold back, and it's all crap. If you want to go after somebody, you go after somebody, obviously. But it's unfortunate because I think Buffalo really needs a culture change, and this is another proof of that.
I told you guys, Lindsey Ruff was not a good hire for that team. Next, Junior, sticking with the Buffalo Sabres. Kulich, is his stock rising because of injuries or because of the way he's playing?
I have had a soft spot for Coolidge for a while. I don't know if you guys remember when we previewed Buffalo, I had a take that Coolidge would get more points than Benson this year. And he doesn't quite have more points than Benson, but he is pacing for more because he did start the season in the AHL. He's 4 points in his last 4 games. He was producing at an amazing rate in the AHL with the Rochester Americans. Last year, he had 45 points in 57 games. The year before, he had 46 and 62. And just for some reason, wasn't getting the call-up. Now he finally got his opportunity, and he's striving. He's on a top line with Thompson and Peterka. and
if Thompson's there.
and he's excelling. Well, yeah, we'll see. But he felt better after the game. They said. So I don't think it's.
Yeah, I mentioned that part. I don't think you were here, but concussions. You never know, right? You could be a couple of days later, you start getting migraines. 3 days later, you start getting migraines. So you never know with concussions.
Yeah, Kulich is a natural goal scorer. Look, 11 goals so far this year. So keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
And finally, the last one, Junior Nick Marchenko out for a season. Junior sold all his assets to get him, and he's out indefinitely. Don't know how long. What does this do for Columbus playoff run? And is there anybody that can sustain what he was doing, like at least
Well, I think
some of those goals?
the most important thing here is that in LPHL, Junior dropped to third place because he doesn't have a Marchenko now, and he gave up Elias Patterson. He gave up a first as well. So this is great news for LPHL. As far as the actual NHL, this is horrible for Marchenko. He was having a career year, 85-point pace. He had already put up 21 goals in 53 games. Last year, he had 23 goals in 78 games. So you were seeing a breakout of a potential superstar, maybe, and I bought into it. I actually offered more than what Junior offered, but I lost the trade, and it kind of works out in the end because I'm gonna probably win LPHL because of this. So,
Oh, don't put it
um,
out there, Nick.
I,
Oh,
you actually
man.
think it makes a difference
Oh,
if I put it out there or
man.
not,
Remember,
guys?
First of all, I'm in
Fantilli.
second place. Okay, so keep my team's name out
remember,
your
No, I'm pretty
mouth.
sure. I'm pretty
remember
sure
what
you dropped to
happened?
third.
No, he didn't. He's still in second. I'm watching the standings now. Remember what happened to the Habs? Yeah, Habs are going for the playoffs, and then paf, they're closer
He
to
got
last
6 points out. Okay.
place than they are to a playoff spot right now.
Nick,
The
you
Habs.
don't watch hockey on Sundays. You don't.
You love talking Habs, Vince. You're obsessed.
Yeah, as soon as we
You're
started,
absolutely
as
obsessed.
soon as we started like hyping up the Habs, like you.
So yeah, yeah. Wait for it. Adam Fantilli was playing top line. He's still playing top line, right? He was with Kent Johnson and Marchenko before the injury. Voronkov takes the spot now. Who I've been interested in lately is Dalbel Beluz because he was a second round pick for Columbus. He's come in and he's actually producing some decent points on a third line role. So, what's important about Marchenko? Cole Sillinger is now seeing top power play. Maybe that's a name to look out for. Vorenko was already seeing top power play before. So, these are the two guys that maybe potentially could replace some of Marchenko's production.
Tough injuries in Columbus. Goodbranson, Boone Jenner, Yegor Shinnikov,
Have you
Sean
seen
Monahan, Dante
Did
Fabro.
you see James Van Riemsdyk lost something like 5 teeth. He had a tooth lodged into his gums that they had to surgically remove after, like take out the stitches that he had during the game to take out the tooth and then put it back the stitches. Eating out of a straw. He's eating out of. We lost Junior again. He's eating out of a straw and he's still putting up points. Can you
It's
imagine? Like
unbelievable.
this is what an NHL player is all about. Like this guy's tough as nails.
All right, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the Odd Man Rush. Junior, cue the music.
Odd Man Rush.
Alrighty then, moving on to the
Rumblings.
rumblings. Nick, I think there's quite a bit to talk about here.
Let me talk to ya. Let me talk to ya.
A little bit loud, but it's not bad, not bad. All right, so guys, there are massive amounts of trades that have gone down, and we're not talking about NBA only. Here, we're talking about actual NHL trades, and we wanted to touch on them because it's important. I'm sure a lot of hockey fans already know about this, but it's important to kind of just reiterate what good this might do for your fantasy team as well. So, the Flyers traded Kuzmenko,
Calgary traded.
Pelletier, a seventh, for Morgan Frost and Farabee. So I'm gonna throw it to you, Vince, first, and then we'll go from there. Okay. Kuzmenko or Pelletier, who's more likely to be fantasy relevant?
Penalty. I,
Interesting. You know, Pelletier was on waivers this year, and nobody
yeah,
wanted him.
yeah, but he's a young player. He has grit to his game, which Torella likes. So I think Torella will find a spot for him on that top six.
Interesting. Okay. Um, Junior, anyone on the Flyers takes advantage of Frost and Farabee leaving?
Anybody on the Flyers? That's tough. I mean, Noah Cates maybe might get promoted a little bit from maybe the third to the top line center if they don't make another move to replace Morgan Frost. Other than that, it's more opportunity for Tyson Forster. It's a
Okay.
really strange situation in Philadelphia, really. But I think Kuzmenko he always does well on a new team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually goes on a run here to end the season and then be irrelevant again next year.
Not
All
sure.
right.
His defensive play is not too towards his liking.
That's always been the problem, though, with him. He has the offense. It's
Mm.
just defensively, he doesn't seem to put it together. Moving on to Vince and Junior. I kind of want both of your takes on this, whoever wants to go first. But Farabee might be the best player in this trade, right? If we're talking pure talent. He's power play one, line one for Calgary right now. Are you guys excited about what he could become in a different situation than Philadelphia?
Um, Listen, I feel Calgary is where they are now, not because of individual players who are breaking out, but because of a system that they all bought into and playing with. So is he gonna is he upgrade on Kuzmenko and Pellissier? I think so, yes, for Calgary's sake. So, but is he gonna be fantasy relative? I don't know. If he's a centerman, isn't he?
No, he's not. He's a right wing.
He's a right wing.
Frost is the
So
centerman.
yeah.
Frost is the
So
center, yeah.
listen, I feel Farabee will have the better chance of uh, being fantasy than Frost for sure.
It's funny how Farabee is like number one line, but Frost has number one power play. I always liked Morgan Frost, but not quite enough to go acquire him in a league. It's strange. I kind of like him, but not enough to say I'm gonna go spend assets to get him.
He's not a real top six center in my
No,
book.
but
That's what
in
that's the
Calgary,
part that
I think he could succeed because has less competition. He could
all
be a
right.
candidate that you take advantage of now and then sell high when he produces.
Perfect. That's the end of the Flyers Flames trade. I'm going to move on now to the Granlund trade, which is actually interesting with San Jose and Dallas. So, Junior, I'll start with you this time. Wenberg 2C and PP1. Now that Granlund's gone, is this worth something?
No, not to me. Not to me. I can't put any faith in Wenberg at all. And I that was the lines yesterday, but from what I'm seeing now, they changed it and put Will Smith at center. So it's Macklin Celebrini is at center C1 and Will Smith is C2. I think Wenberg might even be injured, but even regardless, when he comes back, I don't think Wenberg is fantasy relevant. I think losing Granlund though is
Vince,
Yep.
what do you think about Granlund in Dallas?
Uh, I think it's a beautiful fit for Granlund. Fantasy wise, he might not produce like he was producing in San Jose, but as a depth player on that Dallas team, I think it's a huge pickup for them. And he's proven he's got some offense to give. So I think it'll be a very nice fit for them. But I don't know where he fits in the top six, right? You have Hintz, you have Robertson, you have White Johnson, you have Ben, you have Duchesne. So It's gonna be tough to fit him in the top 6. So, but I love this pickup from Dallas because I just as a depth pickup, it's a beautiful pickup.
Right, isn't it? Like Granlund has been a player that has actually picked it up lately. Um, and by lately, I mean like ever since he got to San Jose, he's been better than he was when he was in Pittsburgh. So I like Granlund here. I definitely do. All right, guys, now the big news. Last trade to talk about. Let's pick up the pace here and pick up the energy as well because some people are looking a little bit tired around here.
Usually it's the host that has to pick it up.
I agree. I
Come on,
agree. The
sweetheart.
host. All right. Well, JT Miller. Okay, now this is huge. And I know you guys have your opinions. I disagree with both of them. Um, but the JT Miller trade was JT Miller, Brandstrom, and is it Dorrington, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. From Vancouver, goes to New York Rangers for Hedel, Mancini, and a first. Who's fantasy relevant? Well, it's JT Miller, Hito, and that's pretty much it. I don't see Mancini necessarily becoming a fantasy relevant player. Brandstrom was highly touted for so many years and turned into somebody that's just thrown into trades now. He is not, unfortunately, he's just not relevant anymore. So, what do we think about JT Miller in New York? What do we think of that? Where does that leave Pedersen? And Hedel. So like this is all interesting. This is a huge trade from in NHL standards, right? So I'm very interested to see what you guys have to think about this. Let's go Junior first with, and then we'll step to Vince after that.
So look, Patterson has no excuses now. If this is what was pulling him back and not being able to produce at the level, first of all, I think it's a bit soft if this was the case, but regardless, it's over. He's gone. Now it's put up or shut up, right? At the same time, there was word today. Elliot Friedman said on the 32 Toss the Pod, they put the brakes on maybe trading Pedersen. They want to see how the rest of the season goes, and they'll take care of it in the offseason, if anything. So honestly, no excuses for Pedersen.
Hasn't looked good so far.
Hasn't looked great. I want to see what he does coming off the Four Nations, but yeah, I'm happy I acquired Miller, though. I'll tell you that much.
Absolutely.
Are we
Absolutely.
doing a full take here, or are you going through those four notes?
I'm going through the four
Okay.
notes because I don't want this to be a 7-hour
Gotcha.
podcast. Vince.
I like the trade for Vancouver until they traded their first that they got from New Jersey for the other Pedersen, which I don't understand quite why you would go that way. Listen, JT Miller, he's gonna do well in New Jersey, but in New York, but he's got a bit more people in front of him than he did in Vancouver. And in Vancouver, he was the number one player on that team. Like there was nobody ahead of him, and Quinn Hughes was second. Here, you have Panarin, you have Fox. So if he blends well with these players, I think he can do really well. But even him, his start wasn't too. New York Rangers, after acquiring him, didn't have a very good game, so they lost
Yeah, but then
the
they
first game.
won.
But he put points.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
but they
He
lost.
put.
he has
I'm
he
just
has
saying
4 points. 4
He
points in
lost
2
one. They
games.
won one.
He has 4
It's one.
points.
They're 1-1.
I understand, but the first game they lost. But still, it's. I listen. The
JT Miller.
Rangers,
JT Miller
Rain,
is a star.
Rangers had to do something because they need to get back in the playoff run. So it's
Yeah.
and I find they traded a young player who had a lot of potential, but I'm not sure if he's ever going to hit that potential.
Well, a big reason why he might never hit that potential is because Philip Hedel, unfortunately, has had a lot of injuries, and there are a lot of head injuries.
Hmm.
So the majority of the time that he's out has been concussion related, and you're always scared about that, right? But the player has freaking talent. If he's healthy and he doesn't have any of these issues moving forward, I think that he'll be great. Uh, Junior, what are we thinking about Hedel in Vancouver? Does he become relevant all of a sudden? More relevant, let's say, than he was in New York? Because in New York he wasn't necessarily producing.
I think he'll definitely be more relevant because he's going to be playing with a lot less pressure. It's not the team he was drafted for. He was drafted with. He's going there. He's gonna have more opportunity. He's not gonna be on a third line and given spots of opportunity. He's gonna be given the full goal by Rick Tocchet, so long as that he earns it. Right. So far, so good. He scored a nice goal yesterday. Yeah, no, I'm curious to see how he does. Like, doesn't mean he's going to be a point per game player, but I think he could put up more points than what he was doing with the Rangers for sure. And yeah,
Do we think Mancini has any relevancy in fantasy circles? Like, is this kid going to become a point producer or half decent NHL player, or we're talking about a number 5-6 that's not really relevant?
When you have Quinn Hughes on your team, you're rarely relevant. So no, I think they're hoping he becomes something, but no, I'm not picking him off waivers just to for that. Like,
So you don't see him as like a number 3-4, maybe
no,
crunching up some
yeah,
minutes.
maybe a 4-5, but 4-5s are not fancy relevant.
In some leagues, you're begging to get some of these players, but yeah,
I could see
um,
him being a poor man's Ronick,
hmm, that's
second
interesting.
pairing defenseman.
Okay, well, guys, JT Miller back in Vancouver, back to producing as well because he wasn't really doing anything in Vancouver. One thing I remember hearing is that there was a Zoom call when he actually got traded away. Him speaking to the rest of the Vancouver team saying goodbye. It was supposedly a very emotional moment. A lot of the Vancouver team had teary eyes, according to one reporter, beat writer from Vancouver that
Except
I
for
read. No, not even. Patterson was there as well. You know, Patterson said his goodbyes. Um, the fact is that JT Miller was beloved in Vancouver. This wasn't a person that had, according to the beat writers, did not have any problems in the locker room other than this spat with Elias Pettersson. And he's the first guy that invites people. Supposedly, he organizes all the team events. He's the first guy that invites people to his house whenever they're new on the team. First guy to pay the bill at the restaurants. Like, this guy is absolutely was the identity of that team was going through this guy. And I know that Vince had a comment where he said, emotional players. Have you ever worked with emotional people before? They're not easy to work with. And in a way, I mean, obviously he was not talking about JT Miller because he's never worked with him, but maybe his other boss currently. Um,
Hmm,
might or
she
might
doesn't
not
listen to
be
this
his
podcast,
wife.
so.
who is my
uh,
wife?
but you know, we're talking about an emotional player. A lot of players that do well often are emotional or have some emotion in the game as well. One thing though that you could tell is that JT Miller has like these up and down years. That also plays a role maybe in how he's thinking, where his head is at. Pedersen, I mean, they went out and they just traded for more Pedersens. So to me, they're trying to acquire all the Pedersens together in Vancouver. Uh, so look out for the following teams, guys. Anaheim has a Lucas Pedersen, and Ottawa has an Oscar Pedersen. These are the next two that are being traded to Vancouver just because they're gathering them all. Producer Vince mentioned before that Marcus Pedersen was traded to Vancouver, and he's not sure why. There was a lot of talk that Vancouver was looking for a defenseman for a very long time, and they needed a defensive defenseman for a very long time. So I guess they're not looking to rebuild. They're looking to retool on the fly and become relevant as soon as possible, or else they would have kept that first, right? Um, do anybody has anything to add on this JT Miller trade, which was obviously the biggest one that happened in the NHL this week?
I'll add that
Mm,
this trade. The person who benefits the most from this trade is Mika Zibanejad,
Oh, that's a great point.
who's been in the last 2 games, 4 points in 2 games since Miller has been acquired. Zibanejad has been moved to right wing. Centering that line is JT Miller, and on the left is the Breadman Panarin. So
They're playing on the same line.
same line, first power play. So that's one guy
How
who
huge
will
is
be
that?
revived with this acquisition. Look, it's very fresh, it's still new, but I think this adds a lot more depth to the team than they had for sure in terms of scoring.
and two players that
Absolutely.
will suffer. Or Kreider and Lafreniere?
Not really. Kreider has put up points. Lafreniere has put points since then.
The one person maybe would be
Yeah, since the
Czocek
trade.
because Czocek lost his spot on power play 1. That would be the one guy I
Yeah.
would say, but he wasn't having a great season to start anyway. So
Well, he was the most excited to get JT Miller onto the team, and he posted on social media a picture of them as young kids playing together. So it's fun. This is nice storylines, right?
should be fun.
And that
Hopefully,
that does
more
it.
trades coming soon.
Trades.
More better trades.
All right, let's do our waiver pickup here.
All right, the waiver. You know what? It's a good time to use this soundbite, I think.
Here comes the money.
Make-
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You know who was money this week? I was money. Who else was money this week? Vince was money.
Junior, you know what I learned today?
What did you learn today, Vince?
There's 3 guarantees in life: debt, taxes, and Nick's wire shitting the bed.
Last week I was the only one that actually did well. So your whole story here is out of whack, my friend. You're out of whack.
Okay, let's
You're out of line.
let's sum it up for everybody here. Vince went with Jaden Schwartz. He had 3 points in 3 games, so that is in 4 games. Sorry, so that is a win for Vince. Barrett Hayton 1 point in 4 games. So
3.
no, because he was playing last night when I did this, so it wasn't finished. In 4 games, so that's a loss for Nick. Junior, who piggybacked on Vince's pick the week before, Matt Coronado, 5 points in 4 games played. So Vince's record after last week is 9 wins and 3 losses. Nick's record is 4 wins and 7 losses. Junior's record here is 4 wins and 6 losses and 2 push. Collectively, with
This guy creates pushes all over the place, huh? For himself only.
no, wait, you have a push. I apologize. So sorry, I had to fix something. Collectively, we are finally over 500 with 17 wins, 16 losses, and 3 push. Are we ready for this week's picks, ladies and gentlemen? Here we go. I was up first this week. I am going with Braden Shen, 48% rostered. St. Louis has been sucking. They haven't been scoring. The whole team sucks. So what do? I go with a St. Louis player. one win is enough. No consecutive wins for me. So I'm going with Braden Shen because logic says not to. Vince, who do you go with?
Listen, I go Josh Doan. Utah has 4 games played. Cooley is out, so he's getting boosted to the top 6 lineup. Plus, he's getting power play 1 looks. So to me, with 4 games playing, I'm going with Josh Doan. He had a really good end of the season last year. Came out really slow this year. Got sent back down to the AHL. So hopefully he can pick it up now with a bit more ice time.
Very nice.
Nice. And I'm going with Tony DeAngelo, 46% owned as of this podcast airing. And Tony D, basically, Dobson is out. Tony D is the top power play guy in the island. I know nobody cares about the island, but I still think that he has opportunity, and he's been hot lately, so I need a win. I'm going Tony DeAngelo.
What is he, your friend? You're calling him Tony D. What is he, your neighbor?
You know who owns him?
You're going with a team that scores
Listener
5
Dan.
goals in 5 months.
That's not true. They were on quite a run there. All right, so to sum it up this week, Junior here takes Braden Shen at 48% rostered. Vince goes with Josh Doan of the Utah Future Mammoths. 11% rostered. And Nick goes with Tony DeAngelo at 46% from the Islanders. That is the first defenseman chosen on our waiver wires this week. Teams that are playing 4 games this week are the Montreal Canadiens, the Ottawa Senators, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Utah Hockey Club. Teams only playing 2 games, Anaheim, Buffalo, Detroit, and the Winnipeg Jets. All right. You guys want to do our claims and drops quickly for our league, or shall we do that off air?
No, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So Nick, you get first dibs as usual.
You're gonna have to pick the cards for me.
Yes. 1 second here as I mix them. So tell
So
us
Miro
who are you
Heiskanen,
dropping?
Miro Heiskanen unfortunately got injured. It looks like he won't be back until after the Four Nations, and Four Nations is at the end of February. So we're talking about at least a month being out before being reevaluated. So that is unfortunate, and Thomas Harley takes over for him on the top power play. So you could put Dallas back into the pool,
Done.
and I'm going to go straight to my claims here. And let me know what team that I get here,
You
Junior.
want to give me a number and I pick it, or I just pick randomly?
Pick number 4.
1, 2, 3, 4. Just so you know, I'm not cheating. 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the black one. The Los Angeles Kings.
Hey, that is not
The
bad.
comeback, Drew Doughty.
The comeback of Drew Doughty, and right away, Brand Clark all of a sudden loses his spots. They don't no hesitation, no second guessing that they just got rid of him.
There was reports he
Um,
might get traded.
that's how much they don't like him, which is actually surprising. And I think listener Mavruka is heartbroken because he has been on this Brand Clark bandwagon forever. Um, So for me, it's a no-brainer. You have to go with the guy that's coming off an injury and probably won't be himself for a while, but will get top power play time, and that is a Drew freaking Doughty.
I am just
You,
double checking that. That's right. Adrian Kempe is the only player taken from LA. So no mistakes done so far from Junior here.
Rare.
Rare. Yes. 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 Very rare. Okay. Am I changing anybody? Am I dropping anybody here? Let's see. Kirill Kaprizov. I've had him for way too long. Marchenko's going to be out for how long? I don't know. Holy moly. I've Tage Thompson and Marchenko. Wow. That's a beating I took.
Tage Thompson, it's hard to evaluate, right? You don't know how long he's going to be out, so
What the heck? Might have dropped Marchenko.
nice.
I will drop Marchenko and Vince. I'll let you give me a number for my pick so that we don't think that I'm cheating.
Vince, watch he's back by tomorrow.
Number 6.
Number 6. So let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another
If
black
he makes all the
one.
cards fall, it's gonna be really fun.
Another black.
My
one.
daughter could count faster than that, and she's 2.
The Detroit Red Wings.
Yay!
So we're gonna make sure. I actually, you know what? I think I dropped Larkin and picked up Marchenko, and that might just be what I end up doing here. We're gonna go to Detroit and make sure they are available to be taken. Nick, you have Lucas Raymond, if I recall, right?
In one of my leagues.
Yes, Nick, you have Lucas Raymond in this league, and there's no other Detroit player taken. So I will go with Dylan Larkin. Vince, your call.
I'm gonna drop Connor McMichael.
Oh, how come?
He's been slowing down lately, so 125, 121 points ahead of second place is not enough. I really want to push it far. You can pick the number 9 card, for my 9 wins in waiver wire pickup. So just go 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh my God, 6.
There's a lot of eye
7,
rolling from me this podcast.
8. Wow, the trifecta. Another black card here, guys.
This guy racist or something?
Maybe.
The Nashville Predators.
Oh, I know I can pick up here. Let me go see who they have. I'm pretty sure this guy is available.
I believe the only player taken is Yossi because Nick had Saros at one point and then dropped him.
Yeah,
So
that's right. And I
so
picked up Ottinger.
I
Should be.
believe so, but we will verify and do the due diligence. Yes. Only player
Philip
chosen from
Forsberg
Nashville is Roman
is.
Yossi.
So we will trade Connor McMichael for Philip Forsberg.
All right, to sum things up for the Partial Breakaway Fantasy Hockey Podcast League, Nick dropped. Who'd you drop?
You don't remember?
You don't remember.
Heiskanen was injured
Heiskanen and
for Drew Doughty.
and he picked up Drew Doughty. Junior drops Marchenko and picks up Dylan Larkin. Vince hasn't done it, so I don't see the transaction here on Fantrax, but he dropped Connor McMichael for Philip Forsberg. Ladies and gentlemen, that does it for our waiver wire pickups and claims of the
Here we go.
week.
Money talk.
Here comes the money.
How about that Royal Rumble on Saturday night, guys?
Yeah. Did you see Rikichi
Yeet.
watching his son?
What? Yeah.
Watching his
Yeah,
son
yeah.
win on social media? That was fun.
That was a good moment. I'm happy. I love the Yeetster.
Yeah, yeah.
Main event, Jeus. Okay.
I even enjoyed actually I enjoyed a few things. The McIntyre getting knocked out and then complaining about possibly Logan Paul trying to be the show, right?
I'm surprised
there's
Speed is still alive. Well, I don't know.
Speed got crushed.
He got destroyed.
Did you see his leg? There was just a layer of skin that came off his leg from falling into the announcer
Oh
table
my gosh.
when he got thrown into the announcer table. Anyways, poor kid. This guy is like 20 years old. He's 100 pounds soaking
I
wet.
feel like he's made of elastic though.
Hey, nobody else could run on top of a Lamborghini at full speed. So
All right.
jumping over Lamborghinis is a special
Is there a
thing.
doctor in the house? Is there a doctor in the house?
I'm a doctor.
Take it over, Dr. Vince.
All right, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So basically, this is just a segment for people who are in different fantasy leagues and things that could come up during a fantasy league and ways to solve it, ways to take it in. Um, the league we're gonna talk about now is a deeper sleeper league that we're in. It's 11 years that the league is happening, and it's basically a semi-keeper league. So you're allowed to keep 5 players every year from your roster. After that, it becomes you're allowed to trade draft picks. After that, it becomes basically a draft league. Last year, I completely went all in and traded my first, my second, my third to get players to try to bring me to the promised land, which didn't happen. So this year, when
What did you finish?
last year I lost in semifinals.
Oh, so it's a head-to-head league. Okay.
Yeah, it's a head-to-head league. So this year I had my 5 keepers, but my next pick was only 45th because I traded my first, second, and third round. So my team suffered this year because of it. So as of right now, I'm in last. There's no hope of me going anywhere with a 3-10 record, if I'm not mistaken. So I was proposed a trade. So to try to make things very like almost as clear as I can over the 5 keepers you're allowed 5 keepers and you're allowed 3 rookies. Rookies are considered people that have played under 162 games. So if you played under 162 games in the league, in the NHL, you are considered a rookie, which at the end of the day can mean that you can keep him under the rookie keeper tally. So we have 3 rookie keepers and 5 keepers. I'm trying to find now where my thing was. Okay, so basically my rookie keepers were before making the trade. These were my keepers. My rookie keepers were Fantilli, Carlson, Wallstead, which is the Minnesota goaltender. And my keepers for the league were Marco Rossi, Sebastian Aho, Pedersen, Dahlin, and Ropey Hintz. Okay, so I was offered a trade. I'm trying to see where the trade is. Here it is. So I was offered a trade with someone who is contending. So basically, he's middle of the pack. So he offered me Cooley, Ben, Connor McMichael, a second round pick, and a rookie keeper for Aho and Stone. So
Okay, a rookie keeper, you mean like an extra
an extra.
um,
So I would have
slot,
exactly. So I would have four
prospect slot?
Yeah. So I would have four rookie keepers right now.
So this is basically a rebuild offer.
Yes, for me, okay. But a lot of people in the or people on the top took this as they used it's a fleece. Vince got fleeced on this trade, which on paper, yes, I agree. On paper, I'm getting Cooley who's on IR and might not come back this year, right? So on paper, yes, it looks like, and that's what the discussion was all about. So they were they got together and they discussed it and they were going to decide whether to veto the trade or not veto the trade. Okay, so basically I had to explain myself, not to explain myself, but I had to give my side of the trade because on paper all you see is me giving this a guy who's competing Aho and me getting back Jamie Benn and Connor McMichael and a second
Sorry,
round.
to be clear, what are all the players you're giving up?
I'm giving up Stone and Aho.
That's it.
Yeah,
And you're getting a
I'm
keeper slot?
I'm getting a rookie keeper slot. I'm getting
Yeah,
Cooley, Jamie
yeah.
Benn, Connor McMichael, and a second.
Who do you keep with this extra spot?
So there you go. So basically, I told you who my keepers were before the trade, right? So now with this trade, my keepers for next year, because I have an extra slot in the rookie keeper, Cooley automatically becomes a keeper for me as a rookie. So now my rookie keepers are Fantilli, Leo Carlson, Wallstead, Cooley, and my keepers now, Aho is not there anymore, so I added Jake Sanderson as a keeper. No? So I'm already starting off with these 9 players on my roster next year. Plus, the guy who I traded Aho to has these players. And remember, he only has 5 keeper spots, okay? So the guy I traded Aho to right now has Aho, Paterka, Lucas Raymond, Robert Thomas, Braden Point, Brady Kachuk, Jake Gensel. Those are 8 players he has, but he can only keep 5 of those players.
And you haven't mentioned any defensemen or goalies.
And I have so at the end of the day, that second round he gave me, I can easily go pick up another player. Like Robert Thompson in this year's draft, he went 18th,
Robert
which
Thomas
is,
from St.
yeah,
Louis.
Robert Thomas, yeah, from St. Louis. He went 18th, which basically
And
is the pick I got
how
in
many
the second
teams in the
round.
league?
10,
It's a 10-teamer. Okay.
10 team league. Oh, so this is what I was trying to explain
So the
to.
second is worth something. Like there's good players available in that second round.
But exactly because we're only keeping 5 guys, 5 keepers. You don't keep more than 5, and the rookies that are rookies. But that's why I had to explain myself to the commissioner, who then passed on the message to the group. And then at the end of the day, they accepted the trade. But it's just sometimes when there's a trade like this, the people on the top only think of, oh well, this is not good for me, but don't think of the all the indirect things that happen because of this trade, which is this guy now has to drop 3 guys that we can all say are having incredible seasons and could be easily picked in the first 2 rounds. And I have now 3 first round picks plus 2 second round picks in this year's draft. You know, so that's why when you're in a league like, I understand being on top. I haven't been on top in any of my leagues in a while now. So, but I understand when you see a trade like this, sometimes the reaction is, oh, you know what, fuck it, there's a collusion, or oh, you know what, this is a bullshit trade. But always try to look at the trade both ways. Like, I don't know if I'm explaining myself properly, but especially in a keeper league, if it was a full redraft league like Nick, I think you're in one of them where you completely just redraft from the beginning. We're in one of them too. So if it's in a league like that, then you know, okay, yes, there's a problem with this trade. But if not, I don't know. You need to always look at both sides of the fence.
Yeah, and it's very difficult to assess when you're not part of the league on what the value of a second rounder is, right?
Hmm.
Like in Lama, a second round pick might not be crazy good because there's so many players that are available that your second rounder is just one extra draft. Whereas in Lama, a second rounder might be half decent because you're drafting players that were drafted in the NHL that were between 10
See,
and 20, and it's such a deep league that like, a totally different value though. We're talking
like
about a different
exact,
draft, right? So
like
you should.
I'll tell you, Nick. Last year, like this year, the second draft, these are players that went: Wyatt Johnson, Thatcher Demko, Noah Dobson, Robert Thomas, Seth Jarvis, Georgiev, Clayton Keller, Jacob Markstrom, Carter Verhage, and Sider.
Yeah, these are big names. Like
Like
these are big names.
you add one of those names to instead of that second round, you add one of those names to replace that second round pick, and the trade now on paper becomes much more
Appealing.
reasonable than it was. Appeal exactly, So that was my own. That was the reason I want to speak about it is because I know it happens in other leagues, and a lot of people, like you said, emotions come into play, right? Especially when you've worked so hard to be at the top of your league, and then you get a trade like this. But you always, especially in dynasties and stuff like that, you need to look at the trade for on both teams' perspective, and it's not bad. Like the way we did it, I feel the commissioner came to me, asked me questions, I answered his questions. I told him my perspective of the trade,
Yeah,
and he could pass on the message. He removed us both from the group message, and they discussed it in the group message.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think anytime you're in like a deep keeper like that or a dynasty,
Junior was saying.
Yeah, well,
Junior was saying that his wife needs to buy him a new computer.
unfortunately for Junior. Uh, well, I think we should wrap it up. No. Look, these are difficult trades to assess, especially in keeper leagues where that have very complicated rules. Like that league, actually sounds like a lot of fun. But you have keeper slots, you have prospect slots, you have all these things that could be traded in that league. So you have to understand the rules of your league. You have to understand what the value of those picks are in order to properly assess. And I agree with you. I mean, not every draft pick is equal in from one league to another. So
And the fun twist we put on this league about 2 years ago was that you can't keep a player for more than 4 years.
okay, so
So
even a McDavid could become available, and
if you want
that's cool.
if you want to keep, let's say someone who has McDavid, if they want to keep him for the fifth and sixth year, while they lose their first and second round picks to keep them an extra 2 years, just so that it keeps the player recycling gets in there and everybody has a chance to get, sometimes the McKinnon, the McDavid, the big players, right? So
That's pretty
it's
cool.
that little twist that we put into play.
so what I was getting
Very
at
cool.
before I got rudely disconnected was just that when you're in keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, and deep leagues like that, oftentimes you'll come across trades that look one-sided. But at the end of the day, everybody has a plan.
Mm.
Everybody has their own value that they apply to certain players, and things like that will happen. But I think they handled it very well as a commissioner and
Yeah,
as a group.
exactly.
Very nice, ladies and gentlemen. We still have our merch, shirts, t-shirts,
Watch us on
caps.
YouTube.
Watch us on YouTube. Hit like and subscribe if you like our content. If you really want to support Junior, tell him to buy a new computer.
Yeah.
Do it on YouTube and social media.
Maybe we
Just
start-
add him.
Maybe we start a GoFundMe.
Guys, the computer is actually relatively new, man, and I spent a lot
Yeah,
of money on it.
Not good enough.
It's not
So-
the computer, man.
So we need to figure
It's
it
the only
out.
other thing that could be.
You know what? I think the computer wants you guys to be here. That's why.
All right, peeps. Have a
Take
good
care,
night.
everybody. Have a good week.
Take care, everybody.